Okay guys, hi, Pamo here. Sorry it's been a bit of an absence since the last video we've had. We've had a bit of an issue with some technical difficulties. As you can currently see, I'm standing underneath Mitsubishi FTO. What we're going to do today is hopefully I'm going to show you how to change your front anti-roll bar bushes, which is a bit of a meat of a job. It's not much fun because the anti-roll bar is tucked right up above my head here, above the subframe and below the floor pan, so access to the bolts which remove the anti-roll bar bushes is quite tricky. What I'm basically going to do is unloosen and undo the subframe itself and allow it to drop down just enough that I can get a spanner in and undo the 12mm bolt which holds the D-cup sort of brackets onto the anti-roll bar bushes. Hopefully there won't be too much swearing involved and we'll see how we get on, guys. Okay guys, right, so as you can see I'm standing in a pit which I'm blessed to have, even if it is the most stinking, disgusting pit on the planet. It was built before that we moved into this place that we live in now, and although it is manky, it does help a lot with jobs like this. There isn't any reason why you can't do this lying on your back with the cut axle stands under, and even I have it on jack stands because you do need the front wheels off the ground so there's no force on the anti-roll bar, guys. So what I've done is jack the car up, put it on axle stands, make sure it's nice and safe. It's really important or you'll end up dead, and there's no point in that, nobody wants that, especially for a £20 anti-roll bar bush. So we're going to start by removing the subframe itself, or lowering the subframe down. There's a bolt straight above this access point in the lower wishbone, and there's two bolts at the back of the wishbone. If you've ever changed the wishbone you'll know these two. You may never have undone the one above here. I have cheated a little bit and I have loosened these off, so these are a little bit easier than when they were first bolted in. So I'm going to just whip the big ones completely out at the moment. These are massively long bolts which go all the way through the subframe and into the chassis on the front chassis rails. So they look like that. They're a 17mm head and a big long bolt with a pointed end on the end, so you can line it up if it's slightly misaligned when you put the subframe back on. We're not removing it, so that doesn't matter. So we'll put that to the side for now. I'm going to do the same over this side. This one's already completely pre-loosened, so I've just cheated with that. There we go, another bolt there. And now what we've got to do is loosen off these rear ones. Now I'd like to do this without completely removing these bolts if it's possible. I've never done this on this car before, so I'm learning as I go here, guys, with you all. What I'm going to do at first, before we go too far, is loosen these off so they're still connected, they're still in there, but they're give me plenty of space to move around above them. So we do the same over this side. It's just carbon copy of both sides, guys. There we go. And another one. Right, now you can see the subframe begin to sort of move down there ever so slightly. There we go, it's beginning to get loose. Right, so what we'll now do is we'll get a pry bar in, or a crowbar. So now you can see the whole subframe is now loose, guys, right? Now ideally what I want to do is be able to get in above this subframe here, because the bolt I'm looking for is right in the back above this part here. So I think what we'll do is we'll have a little look at removing these completely. That'll give us a little bit extra space to work. Again, these are 17mm headed bolts, same sort of stuff. Right, and we'll do the same over this side. The subframe is actually bolted to the steering rack, so the subframe will not just drop out of the car, and it's got the whole engine attached to it as well, of course. Right, so they're all out. So effectively now the subframe should be completely loose, but as you can see, because of the force of everything here above it, the gearbox mount and all the rest of it, it's still kind of jammed in there. So what we're going to do is move this in such a way I can get a spanner in above it. Let's see if we can get the pry bar in like so. There we are. Right, now I can now get my hand in above this part of the subframe and down and onto the nut head, which is a 12mm nut head that you've seen a picture of the bottom of the thread. Right, so that's going to be a nice tricky one. What a fucking ridiculous design. Right guys, so this is a nightmare of a job. Because even with undoing the subframe bolts, and I've even included these two bolts in a cross member as well, you really don't get enough space to move this subframe down to get in the back of it. The only way of accessing this bolt is to go up above the subframe where my hand is here, and you can see I've put a wooden wedge in there to try and hold the subframe down because a lot of force pushing back up on it. I have just, after about 40 minutes probably of turning it a 1/4 inch at a time with a spanner, managed to get it undone to the point where it's finger tight. Oh yeah, and we've sustained an injury at the same time. So there is the offending bolt that you've got to remove to get the sort of D-clamp bracket off. So I'm going to reach back in there and pull that out and put the new bush in, swear a few times and get its grease on it, make sure it's all together right. This is the old anti-roll bar bush. You can see here where it's got some pretty gnarly wear on it. So we're going to replace it with one of these. The hole in this is 16mm for a standard GPX front anti-roll bar. What we're going to do is we're going to put some grease in here because that's important on a poly bush that it's got a nice bit of grease inside it, nothing on the outside of it, and then we'll slap it back in the car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split it open slightly here, wrap it around the anti-roll bar and then turn it so that I smear the grease all the way around the inside of it. So I'm going to go in from the back here I think because it seems the easiest way. Okay guys, right, so I said I was going to remove the D-head bracket on this side so that we could move the anti-roll bar out of the way so we could put both of the bushes in. It got to the point where I decided that this was getting far too difficult the way that I'd been sort of told how you were supposed to do this. So some of you may notice, some of you may not notice that I've gone a little bit further here and I've undone the entire cross brace that goes along the bottom of the engine. I've undone the two bolts that hold the steering rack onto the subframe, and that's given me much more space that I can move the subframe down and out the way. So I've got a little wooden wedge still on this side, and as you'll see from some of the pictures that are coming up here and here, you can actually see the anti-roll bar bushes. So we are able then to get, you know, Ratchet in there and do this, you know, a proper way rather than trying to do it without being able to see anything and swearing and cursing at it. So I'm now just finishing up tightening up this 12mm bolt on this side. I have changed them because the ones that were on the car were a bit rusty. Now luckily I spend my nights working as an electroplater for a living, so I'm able to take some of these things away and clean them up and make sure that they're in really good condition and that they're never going to rust again because I plate with a horrible metal called cadmium. But it means that if you look now underneath here, you should be able to see a nice bolt poking through. It's nice and fresh, the tip of my finger, and another one over here. Now these are different lengths guys because it's just two bolts that I had that are the same thread diameter that were on the other car. And I've cleaned those ones up and I've used what I can out of the garage. So now we've got an anti-roll bar connected with two brand new Superflex polyurethane bushes. It's taken a bit of time, it's a lot harder than I expected it to be from a write-up that I'd read. I thought this was going to be a bit of a difficult job, but I didn't think it'd be as hard as it is. It really is a bit of a meal guys. What you want to do is remove as much stuff as possible. Get yourself some wedges in there so you're not trying to fight it and hold down on all the suspension bushes as you undo it. And you should find it will go in eventually. So at this point I can now start breathing easy again. What I'm going to do is take my wedge out, I'll start to move all the subframe back into position, I'll get the cross member on, do up the power steering bracket which is just up here somewhere, there we are, and then hopefully from there it shouldn't be too long putting it all back together again guys. A few nuts and bolts and off we go. Thanks for your patience. I hope this helps you. If you do attempt to do this job and you want to ask any questions, stick it down in the comments below. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell everyone you know about it. Hopefully we can help everyone out there with the old FTOs with rusty bolts that don't want to come apart. Thanks for watching guys. Paymo out.